All right, I'm back in the car again for another video. I said that I'd try to post some more videos, and here we go. This one is off the beaten path, though. It was something that I was thinking about recently, and it has to do with old computer game. So when I was growing up, my father was an electrician, aviation electrician for the Air Force. So he, a brilliant guy. He was always ahead of the curve with things. So in my neighborhood, we were the first ones to have cable, first ones to have HBO. We were the first ones to have a home computer. So this is probably like 1980-ish, in that time period. And we had an Apple II. And so I really got heavily into this computer. And he actually, going back to him, he used to build all kinds of things. And the TV that we had in our family room, he actually built from scratch. So he built this TV that we used, and it worked perfectly. And I remember there was no back on it, though. So like the picture tube was like hanging out the back and stuff. But so he was ahead of the curve with a lot of things. And so I really gravitated towards using this computer. I learned how to program it. I used to make little computer games, like kind of choose your own adventure type stuff. And those books were great. I mean, as a kid, I loved them. I especially loved the ones that involved, espionage and secret agent type stuff. There was one called Your Code Name is Jonah. I loved that one. Who Killed Harlow Thrombey? I don't know if anybody ever read that one. That was another good one because it was basically figuring out who, a murder, and that kind of stuff always intrigued me. So I used to make these like choose your own adventure games on the computer. I built my own slot machine. I did all kinds of things. But anyway, we had my brother got this game called Prisoner 2, The Prisoner. It was based off of an original one was called The Prisoner, but that was more, top-down text type stuff. And this one had better color, better graphics. It was first person, all this. And I remember my brother getting this game, and he could not beat it. He was like the self-proclaimed smartest guy he knows. Like he was like, you're not going to be able to solve this game. And I was like, well, okay, I'll give it a try. And so this game was based off of the television show The Prisoner, which was, I think, in 1967, something like that, a British television show. Patrick McGoohan, I think, is the guy that created it, and he starred in it. And the whole premise of it was that he gets kidnapped and brought to this village, and the entire show, they're trying to find out why he resigned from the intelligence service. I think he might have been MI6 or something like that. And that was the whole premise of the show. And he was given a number. He was number 6. And every show had a different number 2. They never revealed who number 1 was. But there was a different number 2, and each episode, the new number 2 would say the intro monologue type thing. And I don't know if people have seen that show, but the new number 2, which is interesting because the new number 2, Danny Harrison, actually named his band that after that television show. Danny was George Harrison's son, but he has a band called the New Number 2, which really good band. If you have never listened to these guys, you should check them out. But anyway, like they kind of give away what it is in that opening monologue. I don't really want to give away the show. I mean, if people haven't seen it, but if you add a comma in that opening monologue after a certain phrase that they say, they kind of reveal, what the truth was to that show. But anyway, the computer game was based off of that, and it was created in 1980, I think. I'm going off a lot of memory here. I did jot down some notes just from my own recollection so I can remember what to talk about with this game. But it was created in 1980 by a company called EduWare, EDU-Ware, and the company was based on creating games that were educational, that encourage divergent thinking instead of convergent thinking, which they basically said that public schools teach convergent thinking, and so they would try to do like divergent type of computer games to get people thinking outside the box. And one of their big games was this game called The Prisoner. And the first one was more text-based, like I said, and they came out with this graphic one, which my brother got. And it was created by this guy, David Mullich, I think is his name. And the people from Eduware actually met him at a computer store in Los Angeles, I think like right outside of Hollywood, at a computer store called Rainbow Computing, which when I saw that, I was thinking, oh, you're right there. The rainbow, I mean, if people know about the context with that. So that I thought that was a little curious. But they met this guy, David Mullich, and they brought him on to their company, and he created this game, The Prisoner. And I think he went to State University of California, Northridge, which interesting college. And the people who created Eduware were from UCLA, which there's a lot of stuff going on there as well. But that's besides the point here. Trying to talk about this computer game because I was thinking about it and the fact that it does try to promote like divergent thinking, like thinking outside the box, which a lot of people, have trouble doing. And that was the whole basis of this game. And I think the original Prisoner game, the logo was a man stuck inside an apple with grids around him, which the apple goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden and all that. So, but the new version, Prisoner 2, on the box, and I remember, looking at it and being fascinated by it. It was basically this fist punching through a computer screen, and breaking the computer screen, which I thought was an interesting concept anyway. But this game was probably the craziest game I've ever played. So I don't know if people have played it before, if you're watching this. I'm going to give away spoilers on this game because my brother was like, nobody can solve this game. Well, I did. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I could hold that over his head as he was the self-proclaimed smartest guy he knew. And then I went in and defeated this game, but I'll get to that. But it was basically based off of that television show. So you start off, you're going on vacation. I think maybe you resigned from something. I don't know if it was an intelligence organization or whatnot, but you're at an airport and you're deciding what destination you want to go to. And there's all these beautiful destinations you can go to. Whichever one you wound up picking, it always brought you to this place called the island. So in the television show, it was the village. In the computer game, it was an island, and it was fenced in around. And you're brought to this place that was called the castle. I think that David Mullich based that off of Kafka's The Castle. So a lot of interesting little connections and segues in the game. But you're brought to this castle, and you wake up in this room, and then you have to go. And your whole purpose is trying to get off this island. That's the whole purpose. But they're trying to get your resignation code. So they give you this 3-digit code to start off the game. And so then you go and you start, traversing this island, and there's all kinds of buildings in it. I had to write this stuff down because it's been a long time. There's like a library, there's a school, there's a recreation room, there's a town hall, there's all these things. And every one that you go into, you have like different missions that you do. But as you're going through the game, it's a lot of nonsense. So it basically brings you and you go on these missions, like looking for the Wicked Witch of the West broom, and these things that you think that are part of the game to try to solve it to get off the island. And you're given like a social credit score. Like it's a score, but it's like a social credit score, kind of like what China has and coming soon to the US probably. But so you have this, and so the whole game, if you look at it from a convergent thinking type of framework, from that mindset, you play it that way, it'll drive you insane, this game, because there's like mazes that make no sense. There's one maze that you go into, And I remember it would take like 20 minutes to get out of this thing. So I would start like plotting what this maze was so I could go into it and get out of it easily, but it would change every time. So there was no rhyme or reason to it. And there was a brotherhood, like a secret society in this game that you could join and try to overthrow the island, all these things, and it would affect your score and things like that. So a lot of crazy things in this game, and it was driving me nuts. I mean, I think I spent probably a good week on this game. And so trying to figure it out, what I wound up doing, so there's this town hall, and that's where they bring you in, and if you have a certain score, like if it's in a certain sweet spot, like if it's not too high or not too low, they let you in and they let you run the island. So I figured this has got to have something to do with the conclusion of this game, how to escape. So I would go in there and run the island. So the first time I did it, I made sure that the island stayed like in a good state. I didn't, I did my best. And at the end, they give you this gold watch, like you did a good job kind of thing, like you're a company man kind of thing. And then, but you still, you couldn't solve the game with that. It would up your score a little bit. I'd go back and then be like, I can't get in, it won't let me in. So that's how I figured out that you had to have your score like in a certain point. So I would get it to that point and then keep going in. So the next time I went into this town hall, you go in and I'm controlling the island and I'm thinking, you know what, I'm gonna let it just go crazy. I see what happens, if I fail, controlling the island. And so you send it into like a state of anarchy, basically. And the computer screen would just start, would go blank, not blank, but it would start doing this crazy stuff for a few seconds. And then it would bring you back and they'd say, oh, you failed. We're sending you back to the castle. It would lower your score, do all this stuff. So it took me a number of times to get in here and to the town hall. And I figured this was the way to get out of this game. So the next time I went in, I got it to that point again where the computer screen would go crazy. And I thought, okay, well, I knew coding on the Apple II, and to solve this game, you had to have a basic ability of computer code, I think. So when the screen flipped out, the next time I went in there, there's a control break button on the Apple II, so I hit that while the computer screen was freaking out, and it brought me into the source code of the game. So then I'm looking through the source code, and you could go all the way down through this code and get to the point where you solve the game, like the portion of the code that does that, and then you run that command to run that portion of the game, and it would bring you to the caretaker, who was like the number 2, and it would say, congratulations, you solved the game, kind of thing. And so it was the solution. So I'm thinking about this solution, and I'm thinking that's exactly what the cover was showing. Like, you're breaking out of the computer, you're breaking into the code, breaking out of the game. It's like breaking the fourth wall kind of thing. And that was the whole way to solve this game. And so I told my brother that, and he's like, you cheated. That's not. And I'm like, it's not like we got a defective version of this computer game. That was a way to solve it. So I'm thinking maybe there was more than one way to solve this game. But anyway, the whole time, it's basically talking about individualism versus collectivism. It's all these types of ideologies and things like that. And there was a lot of reference to liberty and all of that in this game. But the thing was, when you solve this game, it would come up and say, congratulations, you solved it. And then it would give you an address to write to and say, hey, we want to know how you solved this game. Write to this address. We'll send you a poster or something like that. It was something like that. And I remember seeing that and thinking, it was either you wrote to him or it was a phone number. I can't remember which it was. But anyway, I was like, I am not doing that. I'm like, I was very skeptical about what that was. And I came to find out with this game that there was an article written in like 1984 by a lady, I forget her name. It was like Pauline Polly or something like that, for like a Atari magazine, maybe. It was some computer game. and she talks about this prisoner too, and she talked to the employees at EduWare, and they revealed to her that this game was being used by the Alphabet organization there, you know, CIA, as a training and screening process for whatever. So I'm under the impression that if you sent the, you know, wrote to these people, told you how you solved this game, especially the way I solved it, which was like a backdoor way how to solve it. I'm sure there were probably other ways to do it. This was definitely one of the ways to do it. And, you know, they probably would have, you know, I don't know, they would have kept their eye on me or something. I don't know, maybe tried to recruit me or something. I don't know. But I never did that, and I'm thankful that I didn't. But anyway, it was, you know, I was thinking about it, and it really did, you know, if you think outside the box, and here's a guy punching through a computer screen looking like the fist is coming out of the box. It's all right there, you know, in plain sight. And it wouldn't surprise me, like, if this game actually was being used by the CIA for screening and all of that, to dictate, you know, where they would put you inside the organization and all that. Because the whole game, they're trying to get that 3-digit code, and they would try to trick you into it. Like in the hospital, there was a thing where you would do the Milgram experiment, which was, I think, Stanley Milgram, like at Yale. It was that shock therapy type of experiment where they would try to get people to do things that they weren't normally comfortable with, or what wasn't in their type of conscious personal traits kind of thing, and then they would shock you. So, and in that game, you wind up being able to shock other people, but they would reveal your code. So there are all these kinds of things to trick you. There was a slot machine in the recreation part of this game, where if you played the slot machine, your numbers would start coming up and all that. So there are all kinds of ways to trick you. But anyway, you had to basically have computer skills and thinking outside the box to solve this game. And I think I read that only 3% of people were able to solve this game. So amazing game. It would frustrate the heck out of you, a lot of confusion. And I mean, in life, that's kind of what they throw at us. A lot of things that of nonsense that people will follow and just spiral, you know, and keep you in that that box, basically. So very interesting game. I thought I would talk about this, and I don't know if other people have played it, if they solved it. Maybe there was a different way they solved it, or they solved it the way I did. I'd love to hear in the comments if anybody ever played this game. But there are some other computer games that I'd love to talk about too. So maybe, you know, I'll throw some other videos in here. But really, it does pertain to, you know, looking into something like Samantha and thinking outside the box on this, and not just believing what you're told. You know, that this game kind of plays heavily into that, and the whole individualism, collectivism piece of it, which is where this world is going, you know, the global village and all of that, you know, collectivism, that's what they call it. They don't call it communism, they don't call it socialism, they call it collectivism. And this has been talked about for years. I mean, H.G. Wells, I've talked about that before. I think in his book, The New World Order, he talks about it. He talks about collectivism. He talks about the USSR in that sense, that they liked what the Soviet Union was doing, especially under Lenin, but it wasn't really the correct type of communism that they called collectivism. It's in The New World Order by H.G. Wells. You can read that and find that out. But anyway, all right, I spiraled too long on this. I thought it was interesting, just a memory I had, and it does pertain to just how we think about things in life in general. But I am going to start doing more videos, not these car videos, and I'll do them like the old style that I used to. I'll have visuals, like photos, and you know, have video clips, things like that, and I'll go through. And I'm gonna start back with Samantha, you know, her journey to Hollywood, and then talk about what was going on with Robert Wagner, and I'll then talk about, you know, Lime Street, all of the things that had to do with that, leading up to the plane crash, going into all of the deep esoteric stuff that's involved with that show. Even not even esoteric, there's things that are in plain sight in the TV show too that allude to her plane crash. But so I promise that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start going and start doing more videos again, and keep this channel going, because it's very important, and I appreciate each and every one of you that actually have stuck with me and watched these videos. But yeah, but check out this computer game, The Prisoner. I kind of gave away the ending. Well, that's only one way to solve it. There's probably more, but anyway, I'll sign off here, and I'll be back with some more Samantha stuff.